What's happening, people? It's me, El Hajiel. It's a beautiful Sunday morning. I hope everybody had a blessed weekend, and we are here to talk about the royal family. For those of you that don't know, Prince Charlie bit my finger is not a king. He's been king for a while, actually. He's been king for quite a while. But we had to do a celebration about it, apparently. That cost 250 million. You know, yeah, we had to do that. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong with some people. Because what exactly were we supposed to be celebrating on Saturday? That pledging allegiance to a billionaire who literally could not give a fuck about you, your family, your friends, or anything about your life. This man would actually spit on you if you were on fire. And that's who you want to pledge allegiance to because he was ordained by God to be king. Oh my God. Now, we're not here to talk about, all the atrocities or the scandals tied to the royal family, because we might be here for a while. We might be here for a while. But what we are here to talk about is the coronation that happened yesterday, and just how obvious it is, this weird propaganda that the UK is on to make people believe that, not only believe that they need the royal family to exist, but that they're a good thing. And before we get into the nitty grittiness of it, let's just remind ourselves about what happened this weekend. And remember that he's already king. He's already king. The whole point of this weekend was really just for a man to play dress up and get the whole country involved in it. He wasn't made king in the coronation. He was already king before that. This is just some ceremonious bullshit. Report from CNBC. Here's what it says. Still, the expenses of the weekend's proceedings, which include a King's procession and a star-studded concert in Windsor Gardens, are expected to run between 50 million to 100 million, according to estimates cited by the BBC, which it said was not from an official source. Who pays for the event? The occasion, like most public events, is funded by the UK government and ultimately the British taxpayer, which Buckingham Palace also contributing an undisclosed share. Of course it's an undisclosed share. That has disgruntled some Brits, with 51% saying that the coronation should not be funded by the government, according to a recent YouGov poll, while 18% were undecided. So 51% of people are saying we do not want to fund this nonsense. And in case you don't know what's going on in the UK, we're in a cost of living crisis right now, where housing is at an all-time high, energy is at an all-time high, homelessness, we're talking the NHS is on its knees. There is so much going wrong in this country right now that people are struggling. Some people struggling more than ever now to survive. If you've been paying attention to the news, multiple professions are striking almost every single week because of the conditions that they are having to work in. And every single time they ask for more money, the response is there's just no money to give. But when it comes to stupid celebrations such as this, all the money's being found. Oh, we've got 50 million here, we've got 100 million here. And I think this picture pretty much represents what's going on in this country right now. Something very poetic about a king in a golden coach being driven over a load of potholes filled with wet sand because no one in this country has the money to fix the roads properly. And you look at it and it's quite sad that this is clearly where the priorities are in this country, is upholding a billionaire and paying for him to, like I said, play dress up. We're paying for a billionaire to play dress up. And the sad thing is, this is a man that could very easily fund all of this himself and still have lots more money to spend on whatever the fuck he wants. He could fund this multiple times over. As in, this is nothing to how much King Charles is actually worth. 100 million is nothing to him. And if you think I'm exaggerating how rich this man is, Forbes did a whole article on it, and I'm just going to read it for you. Charles is also expected to inherit an enormous private collection of jewelry, art, rare stamps, and any personal investments. Altogether, Forbes values these personal assets at 500 million, and Charles won't have to pay a shilling of inheritance tax, thanks to a 1993 agreement with the British government that exempts transfers of property from one sovereign to another. The 73-year-old monarch also exceeds the throne with a king's ransom of his own, largely through the lucrative annual income he received from the Duchy of Cornwall, which earned him some 27 million this year, which his eldest son Prince William will now inherit. As the new monarch, Charles assumes ownership of institutions that manage an estimated 46 billion in assets. The single most valuable asset held by King Charles is the Crown Estate, a sprawling real estate portfolio with 20.7 billion in net assets. Those properties include Regent Street. In his 64 years as Prince of Wales, Charles also learned how to build his own outrageous fortune. He largely depended on income from the Duchy of Cornwall, which expanded under his tenure to 1.3 billion in net assets, including some 433 million in commercial properties. So do you actually see the dystopian insanity that is going on in the UK, where this man who could buy a small country on his own is relying on the taxpayers like you and me to fund a fucking dress-up party where him and his friends can go, "You're king. God save the king." And then everybody goes, "God save..." What is this, Game of Thrones? What's going on? People are losing their jobs, their houses. People are having to rely on food banks for the first time in their lives. And every time they ask, people trying to get good pay just to survive. And every single time they ask, "We need more," the government always says, "We don't have any money. We don't have any money." It's like, no, we don't have any money to, give you guys the pay that you deserve that reflects the work that you do. But you know what we can do? We can clap. We can clap for you. Good job. Hip hip hooray. God save the working class. And I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to talk about, the wealth of the royal family without, educating you guys on how that wealth was made in the first place. Because I feel like people should at least be aware of the values that they uphold when they praise the British monarchy. Now, I'm pretty sure we're all aware, at least most people are aware, of Britain's part in the transatlantic slave trade, specifically in West Africa. In the mid-16th century, it was Queen Elizabeth herself that gave the okay for slavery to be approved in England. And through that, they set up what's called the RAC, the Royal African Company, which basically gave Britain, England, a monopoly on the West African slave trade. And through that period, the RAC, the Royal African Company, transported more slaves through the transatlantic. They transported more slaves than any other company at the time. And the RAC is specifically responsible for transporting more slaves to America than anyone else. And because of this, the royal family were able to amass a massive amount of wealth, to the point where buildings such as Kensington Palace and Hampton Court, as well as, a bunch of other buildings that were built in the 17th century, that late 16th century, 17th century, they were funded essentially off the backs of the transatlantic slave trade. And now, in the situation that we're in now, the British taxpayer is the one that is also now funding the royal family to continue their fuckery. We're basically giving them a maintenance grant through taxes. Like, I can't imagine us helping fund a billionaire's lifestyle while he goes off and pursues more and more money. And we are being gaslit 24/7 to believe that we need them, that they exist. You get the BBC, all these fucking people showing up, giving you absolutely stupid reasons as to why we need normal motherfuckers like you and me, why we need to uphold them to a certain fucking standard and call them king and queen, because God said so. Like, who told you that? God? Because guess what? He told me that too. Now what are we gonna do? And you want to hear what's even worse? In 1837, there was the Slavery Compensation Act, which basically meant that I think it was a sum of, just had to fact check the sum, it was a sum of 20 million at the time, which is equal to about 17 billion now. Yeah, 17 billion now. That was given back to the slave owners as compensation. It wasn't given back to the families. It wasn't given back to the people. It wasn't even given back to the countries that these people had been stolen from. Instead, it was given to the pieces of shit who owned the slaves. And this was some generational money, like as in some generational money, to the point where it took them almost 200 years to pay it back. As in, families were still being paid back this money even after the 2000s. Like, I think they only stopped paying it in about 2010. So it was like families were still being paid this. So all the rich, the elite family, they were still being paid for owning slaves almost 200 years ago. So do you understand the hypocrisy when you'll have some idiots try to tell you, oh yeah, it was in the past, so let's just all move on. It's like, but it's the people that were benefiting from it back then are still benefiting from it right now. It was never a case of black versus white. It was always the elite versus the poor or the working class. And what happened was the elite then decided, oh, we need the working class, the poor, a reason to not want to be like us. So what should happen? Okay, let's pit them against black people. Because at the very least, even if they're not this, they're not that, they can always look and say, oh, at least we're not black, which is why they started to demonize black people. They started painting a picture of black people in order to make the working class white people feel like they were superior to these black people. And that is how the elites used racism to affect the working class. Because remember, during the days of slavery, if you were poor, you were not owning a slave. Like, it was the rich people, they were the ones who mostly partook in this fuckery. But then when the slaves became freed, they needed these, the working class, the poor white people, they needed them to not aspire to become like them. So essentially what they did was they pitted them against the black people, the slaves, the former slaves, and they said, oh, at the very least, you can look at them and know that your life is not as bad as theirs. We've seen time and time again that these people do not care whether you are white, whether you are black. They see you as poor. They see you as dirty. They see you as a filthy poor person. Simply because you were not born into the same wealth that they were born to, they believe you do not deserve the same things that they believe. You don't deserve the same respect. You don't deserve the same happiness. You don't deserve the same anything, simply because you just happen to be born in a different circumstance. So you see why upholding these people, why holding these people who were simply born just like me and you, while holding them to such a standard where you want to call them king because they were chosen by God, that just feeds into the narrative. It feeds into the bullshit narrative. The already wealthy people, the already rich people, if the money was given to them in order to make them happy for no longer having slaves. And before we start saying, oh my God, he's bringing rice into it, this fucking shit, like this Slavery Compensation Act, cost 40% of the treasury at the time, right, that they were dishing out to already rich individuals, fucking up the working class, right? It wasn't a black or white thing. They were fucking up the working class because this was affecting the taxpayers at the time, to the point where it took 182 years for them to finish paying this back. They paid slave owners for 182 years. They paid them compensation for owning slaves, using up 40% of the treasury at the time in order to compensate the rich and the wealthy. Honestly, these people would shit in your coffee if given the chance. Like, I honestly cannot imagine looking at someone with fingers of a sausage and me telling them that I think they're better than me. In what fucking way? So this is just highlighting the kind of values that you uphold when you praise individuals like King Charles or the British monarchy and say that, oh yes, they are great people because they were just born great. And let's just look at the reality of what happened with Diana, because when you talk about Charles, you talk about Diana. So the reality is you have a teenage girl who was married into a family that did not show her love and did not care to show her love. And she was used to have children. She had the children. And then as soon as that happened, we all know the rest. Like, the way I see it, it was a woman's life that was completely ruined by that family. Diana. R.I.P. man. You'll always be in my heart. And when I tell you the country has gone mad, I've got something to show you. But remember when Queen Elizabeth died and you had like people camping outside for her funeral, and there was all these fucking mentally insane people that were talking about, she meant so much to me. And I'm like, what are you doing? Coronation will include invite to public to swear allegiance out loud to King Charles. People watching the ceremony will be invited to say the words, I swear that I will pay true allegiance to your majesty and to your heirs and successors according to law. So help me God. Millions of people will be asked to say a pledge of allegiance to the king when he is crowned on Saturday. For the first time in history, the public will be given an active role in the coronation, with the Archbishop of Canterbury calling on those watching or listening to the event to take part in a great cry around the nation and around the world in support of the king. During the service, the Most Reverend Justin Welby will ask all persons of goodwill in the United Kingdom, of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of the other realms and territories to make their homage in heart and voice to their undoubted king, defender of all. Oh my God. Defender of all, king of the Andals and the Ryanar, and the first men. I love it. It's like some King Arthur bullshit. Like, what is this? What is this? Defender of who? Defender of who? Like defending the pockets of him and his other rich friends? I think that's what it means. Like, I mean, I didn't watch the ceremony, so, I mean, why would I? But, like, I didn't watch the ceremony, so I don't know if this actually ended up taking place. But the fact that it was even a concept is just pure insanity. So, all who so desire in the Abbey and elsewhere say together, all, I swear that I will pay true allegiance to your majesty and to your heirs and successors according to law. So help me God. There will then be a fanfare, after which Mr. Welby will say, God save the king, with all asked to respond, God save King Charles, long live King Charles, may the king live forever. Oh, wow. A spokesperson for Lambeth Palace said, the homage of the people is particularly exciting because that's brand new. That's something that we can share in because of technological advances. So not just people in the Abbey, but people who are online, on television, who are listening, and who gathered at the parks, at the big screens and churches. We can celebrate together. Celebrate what? You tell me. I don't know. Our hope is at that point, when the Archbishop invites people to join in, that people wherever they are, if they're watching at home or on their own, watching the telly, will say it out loud. This sense of a great cry around the nation and around the world of support for the king. It's just crazy, man, because you've got fucking anti-monarchist protesters being arrested just before the coronation itself because they didn't want the royals to see these protesters. And it's like, if this was to happen in any other country, do you know how different the news would be about the situation? That you're arresting people for protesting, peacefully protesting at that. These weren't people that were destroying anything. These people weren't obstructing anything. They weren't climbing shit. It wasn't anything like that. These people were peacefully protesting and they were being arrested because you didn't want the royals to see that people don't like them. Once again, if this was to happen in any other country where you see, oh, people are being arrested for trying to express their right to protest. If you see that in any other country, people would be screaming, what? Fascism, dictatorship, da 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 da. In case you don't know, Charles is the leader of a religion now. Not a religion, a denomination of a religion. The Church of England. Charles is now the leader of that. And it's quite insane when you think about it, because the Archbishop, they'll all tell you that pledge allegiance to Charles. They're the ones that are saying all this shit, but that very thing goes against everything Christianity to begin with. You don't pledge allegiance to anybody except God. You don't. But then they try to justify it by saying, oh no, he was chosen by God. And once again, did God tell you that? Who told you that? Nobody told you that. So just the whole thing that a man is now born and now he has the same standing as the Pope, you know, in Catholicism, where the Pope is the leader of Catholicism, Church is the leader of the Church of England. And it's like, I just don't understand, because does anything about Charles invoke, you know, Christianity? I really don't think so at all. And I don't see any morally good values, you know, in the royal family. I don't see any of the morally good that comes with Christianity. I don't see that being shown or exhibited by the royal family at all. I see a lot of the negativity within Christianity being shown by them, but never, you know, the positive side of things, where look after your neighbor, look after, you know, love one another, all of that shit. I see them once again upholding a system that shows there is supremacy over everybody else. You know, the whole thing about this whole situation right now is basically you saying Charles is better than everybody else because he was chosen by God. And that goes against everything Christianity. Because if you look in the Bible and you look at every single figure that was chosen by God, apparently that was chosen to lead the people, they never acted like they were better than the people. And whenever they did, God fucking showed them that no, you're just like everybody else. So this whole thing that the Church of England is trying to spread that, oh yeah, pledge allegiance to Charles, he is this, he is that. He's nobody. He is actually nobody. If we want to go off the Christian values, he's nobody. But I guess that's why Christianity as a whole is a very, very flawed religion. Very, very flawed, that people will just come up with their own shit and justify it. It's not a religion that's held with any standard whatsoever. People will just interpret it whatever way they want to interpret it and then form their own new shit from it. So trying to use God as a way to justify any man or any group of people being better than any other people, that's incredibly stupid. It's incredibly stupid, and it's formed from nonsense. And now I'm just going to show you the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail. I don't read the fucking Daily Mail, but you know that they are very much up the arse of the royals. They love, when I tell you they love and will go to bat for the royals. So yeah, they recently did a thing where they went around, I think it was Southampton, and they went around asking people, you know, what they thought of the royals, the coronation. And there's a trend that you'll see where it's really mostly old people that fuck with this shit. It's really the older generation, you know, they're above 50, and they're the ones who really, really have that fucking royal culture within them, where they want to worship. They want to worship a bunch of people. I don't know why they want to worship him, but they just feel like they have to. And another thing is, I don't know why in the UK people think like old people are cute. Them motherfuckers have never been cute to me. Ever. Like growing up, I just hear some of the most racist shit come out of old people's mouth, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like what? And then they'll be like, oh no, don't worry, they're just a product of their time. Don't take any. It's like, nah, you better get your granddad out of my face, bro. Your Sir Granddad Bobby is about to get chinned. You know, back in my day, we didn't have these. What do you mean a black man can be with a white woman? When did that start happening? What do you mean? What do you mean? It's just like Chastenbury, whatever the fuck that is. Army of eccentric royal campers enjoy festival atmosphere on the mall as they raise toast to the king with well-earned drink as superfans continue flocking to the capital with coronation fever gripping the UK. Is it? Or is that what you guys just keep telling us? Patriotic campers swathed in Union flags and stocked up with tinned all-day breakfasts, booze and bunting has settled in for Saturday, many of whom also camped out for the Queen's funeral in September last year. One couple jetted in from New Zealand for a trip that will cost them £5,000 and are camped near a group of women nicknamed the Golden Girls, who met for the first time at the Platinum Jubilee last year and agreed to reunite at the same spot for the coronation. Many are sleeping in tents. One man has had 2 stolen already, but some are just sleeping on the floor. With rain and thunder forecast in the coming days, many are likely to get very wet, but vowed not to let Britain's spring weather dampen their spirits. Like someone was that prepared that they didn't come with 1 tent. They came with 2. In fact, no, he came with more than 2 because he had 2 stolen already. Like, what are you doing with more than 1 tent? How many did you bring? Did you anticipate this? Faith Nicholson, 61, from Althorne near Chelmsford, has been attending royal events for more than 40 years. So she's deep in that propaganda machine. She said, I've been doing this now since 1981. And the crowds just get bigger and bigger and bigger at each event. Come Saturday, this is going to be packed. Oh, this one was funny. We all look out for each other. We all watch each other's tents. People bring us food. It's just really nice. She added that she feels she probably let the Queen down a bit by only camping on the mall for 4 nights ahead of her funeral in September. Not everyone in her family are as staunch supporters of the monarchy. But Mrs. Nicholson doesn't let that stop her. My husband thinks I'm mad. My son, who is a policeman, I think he's embarrassed. Like, can you understand? You are sleeping on the floor, right? For people who, if they were to walk past you, they would think you were homeless and they would piss on you without giving a care in the world. Here we got Colin McShannon, MBE, and Madeline McShannon, 73 and 70, who are retired from Perth, Scotland, also favour pleading their allegiance. Madeline said, "We're going on a cruise ship, so we will be pledging our allegiance to the king on there. We have always liked the royal family. We are right royalists. We haven't got anything special planned because we will be on a cruise, but hopefully they'll put something on for us." And just to button quickly, yeah, you can see 7370, they're on a cruise ship. You know, they're having the time of their lives. And this kind of puts into contrast the different mindset between those who are younger and those who are older. I believe the reason the older people, they are fine with the monarchy, they don't really care about the shit going on. They've got their pension, they retired, they're living their life right now. They're enjoying shit. Whereas, the people that are younger, that we still got our lives to live, and we're seeing the country fall apart, and we're seeing shit go to shits. And yet, as we're seeing everything fall apart, we are seeing this bunch of people playing dress up and prancing around in horses and golden carriages, and we're doing a whole celebration worth hundreds of millions for it. That doesn't make sense, which is why people are looking at the royal family and going, this is incredibly stupid. This is an incredibly stupid tradition to uphold. Bartley Graham, 34, so he's one of the younger ones I've seen so far, arrived at the mall on Wednesday after discharging himself from hospital. He has joined dozens of people, discharged himself from hospital. I just needed to read that shit again. He has joined dozens of people gathered in front of the palace ahead of the king's coronation, with tents set up to enable them to get a prime spot. Mr. Graham from County Durham said, "I should have been here earlier." But the hospital scenario made it impossible. I self-discharged this morning purely so I could be here. It is important that I'm here to get a good view of the procession, as I did for the Jubilee. I came out for Prince Philip's funeral, even though there was a risk I might be fined at the same time. I queued for 30 hours at Balmoral to see the Queen's coffin the first time, and I queued 30 hours a second time at the Houses of Parliament. Then I passed out and had a stroke, and all I could blame was exhaustion. If it happens again, I'm in the right place. London's hospitals are the best in the country. I love being out here. Mr. Graham came wearing a suit printed with Union Jacks and carrying a cardboard cutout of Charles, who he thinks will be a fantastic king. I like King Charles, and I definitely like Lady Camilla, he said. Charles will be a fantastic king and will do a great job. He has some really strong values, and I think Lady Camilla has fallen into the role very, very well. Like, I'm sure we can all, at the very least, acknowledge the mental illness that comes with this kind of behavior, because this is not normal. This is not normal. This is some next level cuckoldry, like actual cock behavior. What are you doing? You discharged yourself from hospital to go see King Charlie? You queued for 30 hours, not once, but twice, to go see a fucking coffin? I'm so confused. Are you This is pure insanity. I don't even know what to say, man. I don't even know what to say. Honestly, what can you say? Because people like this, it's like a damn lost cause, man. A fucking lost cause. I want to know, obviously, what's going on in these people's lives that they feel like this is what is filling the void. This is the right thing to fill the void. Because there's clearly something going on up there. Something that they're missing. Maybe the kids don't love them anymore. Maybe the husbands have left them. I don't know. Maybe the wife is just not, they're not getting it like that. I don't know, man. But something is clearly missing from these people's lives. that they feel like they need to fill the void up with a bunch of fucking billionaires. I don't know. Kerry Evans, 58, from Gainsborough, Lincolnshire, who also arrived at the mall on Thursday, said she would rather die than miss the king's coronation. When I tell you, the people have gone insane. The older generation have completely lost their minds. Every time I come out to an event like this, I end up in casualty because I just exhaust myself. But I really paced myself this time. Nothing would stop me. I would rather die supporting the royal family than not be a part of all of this, she continued. I'll probably suffer for 3 or 4 months after an event like this. What the fuck? Like, the insanity to say that you would die for a human being that you don't know, right? That you don't actually know. They don't know you, right? They don't know you. You don't know them. To say that you would die for them? Do you not have anybody in your life that loves you? Like, would they not be the ones you want to die for? Not King Charles and Camilla? Like, think about this, right? This family is an insanely rich family that don't actually care about any of you, right? They don't care about any of you, but yet for some reason, you've been brought up in a culture to believe that you should care so much about them just for existing. Not doing anything, not doing any, just for existing. By virtue of them being born, you were supposed to just care. And care to the point where you would say things like you would rather die than be at the coronation. Well, what, that you would discharge yourself from hospital in order to make it there. Why? Because your support means so much to them? It doesn't mean a single fucking thing. Once again, if you were to have died at that hospital, Charles would not know who you were. Charles wouldn't know who you existed. Your family would. Your friends would. People that actually care about you would. But you to put yourself at risk for a bunch of billionaires is... like, imagine queuing for 30 hours 2 separate times that it actually resulted in you having a stroke. And you don't think that there is a problem in your life that you need fixing. Like, and I'm like, as soon as, and like I said before, a lot of the people with this kind of mentality are old people, the older generation. And they're already in their 70s, 80s, they're already in their 60s and shit. So when they kind of fuck off and, the younger generation start coming up, hopefully a lot of this sentiment will now change, because it's already going in that direction where younger people don't give a fuck about the monarchy, and rightly so. Why the fuck should they? Why should we care about the monarchy? What the fuck has the monarchy done for anyone? What have they done for us? Nothing. Now, there was an article that I saw that just made me go, yeah, this is just some straight up indoctrination shit now. Like, what are we doing? So I'll read it. Children drown out protesters by chanting, "He's our king," during Charles's visit. Now, when you're a kid, you don't really know what's going on with anything. You just kind of see people doing shit and you want to take part, and you got kids shouting, "He's our king." Do you think these kids know what the fuck they're talking about? Or do you think they've been organized to do this? Now, let's just have a read and, I'll let you decide. A group of school children drowned out anti-monarchy protesters with chants of "He's our king" as Charles visited Liverpool. The king and queen consort were welcomed to the city central library by a mixed crowd on Wednesday afternoon. Demonstrators shouting "He's not our king" and "Feed the poor," big up, gathered opposite, while a crowd of royal fans lined up to cheer the couple on. And let's remember, Liverpool, right? Liverpool, arguably the most anti-monarchy city in England. The latter group included school children who waved Union Jack flags as the monarch's car arrived. Anti-monarchy group Republic tweeted a video of their protesters chanting "Not my king," with one leading the chants using a megaphone. Like, this was clearly organized. Kids don't have a fucking clue about the debate of whether England should be a monarch or a republic. Like that's I mean, a monarchy or a republic. That's not a thing that they know. So this was organized, and papers like the Daily Mail know this. They know this, but they'll still use these kids as prop to serve their agenda, because now this is being marketed as a, oh, look at these patriotic kids, you know, doing what's right, standing up for the monarchy, our great nation, da 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 da. But the truth is, no, these kids are being indoctrinated by the same bullshit that you fed to all them fucking 70-year-olds back in the fucking 50s or 60s, and that's the shit that they came up with. That's why they fucking love the royals so much and want to suck them off every single minute of the day. Like, you got this here, King Charles portraits, schools, councils and police stations to receive pictures at the cost of 8 million to taxpayer. Why are we paying 8 million to receive pictures of fucking King Charlie? Like, what? So we can look at him and go, wow, what a guy. Like, how does any of that make sense? Who is this man? Like, someone puts a billionaire in front of your face and says, this is your king, pledge allegiance. And you go, yeah, I love you, I will die for you, protect me, my king. I will serve you till the end of time. I will raise my banner in your name. My wife is yours, my children are yours. God save the king. So as a way to justify why £8 million is being spent on a guy to be hung up in places, I don't know, a picture of a guy to be hung up in places, my boy Oliver Dowden said, the Chancellor of Duchy of Lancaster said the pictures would serve as a visible reminder to buildings up and down the country of the nation's ultimate public servant. They will help us turn a page in our history together and pay a fitting tribute to our new sovereign. Anybody else, yeah, be honest, even if you're a die-hard royalist, you cannot look me in the eye and tell me that King Charles is a servant to the public. Do you think King Charles is serving you? Is he serving me? Who is he serving? I am sure that they will take pride of place in public buildings across the land. People should be ashamed. You should be ashamed to take pride in whatever that is, whatever idolatry that kind of shit is, because that's what it is, bro. It's idolatry. That's exactly what it is. You're hanging up a figure there, talking about this is the person that you want to serve, you want to pledge, you want to do. Who is he? Kim Jong whatever? Like, is this North Korea? What am I looking at a picture of a man and going, yeah, I pledge allegiance, I serve? What is that? That's the same shit they do over there. Like, these are people that do not care about the working class. They don't care about you or me, but yet for some reason you're gaslit and you're fucking indoctrinated, and now you believe that even though they wouldn't care about you, you need to care so much about them, to the point where you're sleeping on the cold floor for fucking days, waiting to celebrate them. That's pure mental illness. Like, you got to think of the levels of this. Like, your son, a policeman, another establishment that got so many issues of their own that they should be embarrassed about, he's looking at you and going, fucking hell. Fucking hell, you are a loony. But you're telling me I'm just supposed to care by virtue of them being chosen by God. It's a very outdated system. It's completely unnecessary. Other countries have gotten rid of theirs and they're doing fucking great. Look at France. People talk about, oh yeah, but they bring in so much tourism, so much this, so much that. Okay, France got rid of theirs time ago and they bring in more tourism in the UK. So what are you talking about? France has over twice as many tourists as the UK and they don't have a fucking monarchy. They don't have a monarchy. They got rid of theirs time ago because they realized how it was very, very stupid to have a family just be born into all this wealth, hold all this wealth, and continue to just grow their wealth while we serve them and continue adding to their wealth. While people at the lowest are struggling and struggling, yet we are told that we need these people and we need to continue contributing to their existence because they, once again, were chosen by God. It's very outdated, it's very stupid, and it's very unnecessary. And hopefully as time goes on, we will see a change and shit like this is not going to be a thing anymore. Hopefully, but one can only hope, man. You can only hope. Like, being in my mid-20s right now, I don't know anybody around me who is pro-monarchy. Like, I don't know a single fucking person who's like, yeah, a royalist. That would just be very weird. A lot of them will tell me their grandparents are, and I'm like, yeah, your grandparents, they're quite stupid like that. You know what I mean? They are quite stupid like that. They come from a time, when they were just fed information and they just took it. They just took it all. They just feed me that propaganda. Let me eat it up. That's what they were like. Yeah, of course. That's what they grew up on. Like when the queen was the queen, she was, people liked her because she kind of just kept to herself and just, she just was an old lady. A lot of us just saw her as an old lady that was just there doing whatever. A lot of us knew that she didn't really, like, it was unnecessary. She didn't really need to be there, because we didn't know what she did. But then it was the fact that we just kind of let her be queen. But then Charles is king now, and people are like, wait, but Charles is an actual, Charles is not a nice person. Charles, we saw the shit that went on, and it's like people don't really like Charles like that, and it's the fact that the government are trying to make it seem like oh yes, we love Charles, let me tell you now, people in the UK do not fuck with King Charles, bro. They do not fuck with King Charles. The people that you see that are actually buying into this whole thing, they're those people that we just talked about, the old people or the mentally insane people or the people that have come up through that strong propaganda where they feel like the royal family actually affects their life. King Charlie, where are you? Oh, King Charlie, where are you? I'm looking around for you. Where are you? Where are you? Oh, King Charlie. Look at me, I'm not Charlie. Look at you, you're not Charlie. Look at him, it's King Charlie. I did not elect you, but here you are, serving as my king.